The glass slipped from my hand when I heard it, shattered on the floor, a clean, sharp sound that somehow felt quieter than the words still echoing from the hallway. My trainer gives me the attention Darren doesn't. She laughed after she said it. Not a nervous laugh. Not the kind that softens an accidental insult. No, this was a smirk in audio form, confident, dismissive. The kind of laugh you use when you think the other person is too boring to even notice you've just gutted them. I didn't say a word. I didn't storm in or yell. I didn't give her the show she was clearly rehearsing for. I just stepped back, out the side door, and stood barefoot in the yard. The porch light flickered above me like it was too tired to care. Same as me. It had rained earlier. The lawn was damp. The grass soaked into my socks, and I didn't even flinch. I just stood there, arms crossed, the cool air filling my lungs, and for the first time in 21 years of marriage, I felt nothing. Not rage, not betrayal, just static. Funny thing is, I wasn't even eavesdropping. I was just coming upstairs to ask if she wanted decaf before bed. I was holding her favorite mug, the one that says Morning Grump with the cartoon bulldog. It had a little chip on the handle she never minded. She always said it gave it character. I liked that. I liked the little things. Apparently, she didn't. I'd been noticing the shift for a while. Her new workout clothes, the sudden enthusiasm for 6 a.m. spin class when she could barely get out of bed for brunch before. The way she'd come home flushed and glowing, saying things like, "Nick really pushes me," with this dreamy sigh like she'd just met a motivational speaker who happened to do squats. Nick, the trainer. Of course it was Nick. I'd seen his grinning protein shake selfies on her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. The kind of man who used beast mode in real sentences and thought every third word needed a hashtag. Hash grind, hash leg day, hash dedication. I thought it was just a phase. A silly little midlife fitness obsession. I figured eventually she'd get tired of the kale smoothies and start watching TV on the couch with me again. I figured wrong. I walked around the house that night checking the locks. Did it every night. Routine. But this time I wasn't thinking about break-ins or safety. I was thinking about how many nights I'd done this while she was texting him from bed. How many moments I thought were quiet, shared comfort were probably just convenient background noise to her real connection. Somewhere between the back patio and the guest bathroom, a decision took root. Not a plan, not revenge, just clarity. She wanted attention? She'd get it, just not in the way she expected. Also, if you're still listening and not subscribed yet, over 97% of our listeners haven't hit that button. We work hard on these stories. Subscribing helps us keep going. Next morning, I woke up at 5:30 like I always do. I poured the coffee, black, no sugar, toasted the same whole grain bread I always do, scrambled the eggs with a pinch of paprika, just how she likes them. I made her plate and mine, as usual, set it on the table like always. She didn't come down. At 6:45, I went up. She was in the bathroom doing her makeup, headphones in. Her gym bag was by the door. I asked, "You want breakfast?" She pulled one earbud out, didn't look at me, and said, "No time, I have a double session. Nick said I should push this week." I nodded. Of course. Wouldn't want to disappoint Nick. She didn't even catch the tone, just went back to her lashes. I left her to it. That was the last normal breakfast we didn't eat together, because while she was gone, I sat at the kitchen counter with the iPad, the shared one. She never changed her passwords. She never had to. I wasn't the type to snoop, until I was. There it was. Messages, photos, one video, her giggling at something he said off camera, him flexing, shirtless. Captioned, "Private coaching, don't show the hubby." I didn't get mad, I got efficient. Her trainer's last name was right there in the chat history. Took me 5 minutes to find his wife on Facebook. Her profile was public, beautiful woman, 2 kids, toddler aged, a dog named Murphy. They'd just taken a family photo in front of a pumpkin patch last weekend. I studied their smiles for a long time, not because I was jealous, because I knew exactly how to rupture them. I placed the order for the gift basket at 9:43 a.m. chocolate-covered strawberries, a bottle of wine, the kind of basket you send to celebrate something or to prepare someone for impact. Tucked inside, a plain white envelope. No logo, no return address, just a USB drive, a few screenshots, and a handwritten note on thick ivory cardstock. "You deserve the attention too." I hit submit. Then I took a shower, brushed my teeth, and by the time she got home that night, everything had already shifted. She just didn't know it yet. Kayla left at 6:02 a.m. The garage door thudded open with its usual sluggish groan, then hummed closed behind her SUV. I waited an extra 10 minutes before moving, not because I was afraid she'd come back, but because I wanted her to be far enough away not to see what I was about to do, I took my time walking to the kitchen, poured a second cup of coffee, then sat at the counter and pulled the tablet from the drawer under the sink. Her fingerprints were all over this thing: grocery lists, Pinterest boards for non-existent remodels, yoga poses saved with captions like, "Sore after leg day? Try this stretch," all time-stamped, all careless. I opened her message app, not the phone one, the one synced to her gym email. The name popped up immediately: Nick Dawson. That's all I needed. A quick LinkedIn search gave me the rest. Dawson Fitness and Performance, 10 years in business, one location. I clicked through the tags. Photos of him spotting clients, motivational quotes slapped over filtered shots of his biceps. Then I saw her. Not Kayla, his wife, blonde, sharp smile, eyes that weren't just proud, they were all in, holding a toddler on each hip in matching Halloween costumes. Their dog, a golden retriever, was draped in a ridiculous bat outfit. They stood in front of their front door, wreathed in fall decorations and blind faith. I stared at the image for a long time. I didn't know her name yet, but I already knew who she was. A woman who believed her husband came home late because training hours are crazy. A woman who believed that new watch he wore to work was the result of hitting his monthly goal, not a thank you gift from a married woman pretending her marriage was in a rough patch. She was me, just in a different house, believing the same lies, until now. I closed the tablet, picked up my phone, and typed in luxury gift baskets near me. Took me about 10 minutes to find the right one. Not too extravagant, that would raise suspicion. Not too cheap, that would feel petty. I chose one with chocolate truffles, a bottle of Pinot, and some bath salts. Elegant, understated, not trying too hard. The kind of basket you might send to a grieving friend or someone about to understand something painful. I added a note, carefully, neatly, no smudges. You deserve the attention too. Then I clicked add a custom item, uploaded 3 files. 1, a selfie of Nick and Kayla in his office. She's in leggings, smiling wide. He's shirtless, sweaty, grinning. 2, a screen recording of their messages. Nothing too graphic, just enough to show progress photos sent at 11:43 p.m. and the recurring "miss you already" he sent on nights I was making her tea. 3, a short clip, just audio. Her voice saying, "Darren's like a doormat. He wouldn't notice if I tattooed Nick's name on my thigh." Then laughter, not from Nick, from her, my wife. I added all 3 to a USB drive. I sealed it in a black envelope. No names, no signature, just the truth. I had it shipped to the address listed for Nick Dawson's business license. It matched the house from the Halloween photo, delivery scheduled for 4 p.m. That's when their dog usually sits by the front window waiting. I know this because I saw it in 3 different videos she'd posted on her page. Murphy always knows when Daddy's coming home. I imagined Murphy wagging his tail when the doorbell rang. I imagined her walking barefoot to the porch, kids coloring at the dining table. She opens the door, sees the cellophane-wrapped basket, reads the note, and then silence, shock, maybe that rising nausea when the mind tries to reject something the heart already knows. I don't know how long I sat there after confirming the order. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt still. At noon, Kayla texted me a photo of a smoothie and a caption, "Trying new flavors. Nick says beetroot is anti-inflammatory." I stared at it for exactly 4 seconds before deleting the message. At 3:47 p.m., her trainer's Instagram went dark. By 4:12 p.m., his personal Facebook vanished. By 5:03, the gym's business listing was removed from Google. I didn't need confirmation. Whatever happened when that basket hit their doorstep, it worked. At 6:17 p.m., Kayla came home. She was quiet, didn't hum her usual post-gym song, just dumped her bag by the stairs and went straight to the bathroom. While she showered, I rinsed the dishes. The faucet dripping was the loudest sound in the room. She didn't say a word when she came down to eat, just stared at her phone between bites, brows tense. At 7:40, she finally asked, "Did you touch my gym bag this morning?" I turned to her, all innocence. "Nope." "Why?" She paused, chewed a little slower. "No reason. It just felt, I don't know, off." I nodded, wiped my mouth with the napkin. "Maybe you're just sore, or distracted." She didn't reply, just blinked. I stood, took my plate to the sink and said, "I'm going to bed early. Long day tomorrow." And then I left her sitting there, phone in hand, tension in her jaw, the echo of something cracking beneath the surface. She didn't know yet, but her story had already started unraveling, and I wasn't going to stop it. It was 9:46 p.m. when the garage door finally groaned open. I didn't bother pretending to be asleep. I was in the kitchen, sitting at the island with a book I wasn't reading and a cup of tea I wasn't drinking. When Kayla walked in, the air shifted. Not tension, something more diluted, like the moment right before a bulb burns out. She paused in the doorway, keys still in her hand, then slowly set her gym bag down beside the fridge. I looked up. "You're late," I said. Not accusatory, just factual. She gave a small, forced smile. "Nick's class ran over. We stayed to talk." Her voice cracked slightly at the word talk, like she didn't believe it either. Then she asked it again. "You didn't go through my bag, did you?" I tilted my head just a little. Why would I do that? She watched me like she was trying to decide whether I was bluffing, but I gave her nothing. Just a calm blink and a quiet sip of lukewarm tea. She didn't press. Instead, she mumbled something about needing a shower and disappeared upstairs. I heard the water run. I heard the medicine cabinet open and close. I heard the sound of something, probably her phone, hitting the tile floor hard. She didn't come back down. Next morning, I made coffee at 6 o'clock sharp. Her mug sat untouched beside mine. She didn't come down. No texts, no calls. At 7:14, headlights swept across the living room window. A blue Honda CR-V parked in our driveway. Not Kayla's, not mine. The engine cut. A woman stepped out. I didn't need to ask who she was. I'd seen her face enough times to recognize the lines around her eyes, the slight purse of the lips, the way her hands curled into her sleeves like armor. Nick's wife. She was holding a small duffel in one hand and a rolling suitcase in the other. Her steps were precise, measured, not frantic, not sobbing, no theater, just execution. She reached our front door and knocked once, firm, not loud, not weak. I didn't move. From upstairs, footsteps, fast ones. Kayla came down like she wasn't quite sure whether to run or apologize. She opened the door. The two women stared at each other, and then, nothing. No screaming, no slapping, no reality TV outburst, just silence. Then Kayla stepped aside and let her in. I sat at the kitchen island, coffee in hand, watching as the two of them climbed the stairs together. Not a word passed between them. 15 minutes passed, then 30, then 45. Upstairs drawers opened, closets unlatched, hangers scraped metal rods, the dull thunk of zippers being pulled and the occasional thud of something dropping into a bag echoed faintly through the house. At the 57-minute mark, the footsteps returned. Kayla first, then the other woman, both carrying suitcases. Kayla had her backpack slung over one shoulder. The woman had her duffel now in the crook of her arm. They came down slowly. No hurry, just resolved. Kayla paused at the foot of the stairs. I didn't get up. She stood across the kitchen from me, her eyes scanning my face like it might offer her some version of the man she used to live with. The man who once bought her birthday cupcakes at midnight and knew which cardigan she hated but wore anyway because it made her feel skinny. But I wasn't that man anymore. She cleared her throat. "You couldn't have just talked to me?" That was it. No apology, no denial, no breakdown. Just that one limp attempt at flipping the script, as if silence had been my crime. I didn't answer, not because I didn't have anything to say, because I refused to offer her the dignity of a final conversation. She wasn't owed that, not anymore. She blinked, waiting. I kept sipping. After a moment, she gave a humorless laugh and turned to the other woman. They walked out together, suitcases bumping on the door frame, zippers rattling, shoes clapping on the front porch tile. The door shut behind them, and just like that, Kayla was gone. No slammed doors, no screaming match, no begging, just the soft hiss of an espresso machine in the background and the faint sound of betrayal turning into baggage. I looked down at the untouched mug in front of me. Hers. World's okayest wife. She'd gotten it as a joke on a trip to Santa Fe. I used to think it was cute. I stood up, carried both mugs to the sink, and rinsed them out. Behind me, the fridge hummed. The sun hadn't fully come up yet. The house was quiet. And I wasn't just alone. I was finally alone. By noon the next day, the silence was already breaking, just not inside the house. Outside, it was a different story. The calls started with her sister, then her college friend, then her mother, who had the emotional subtlety of a sledgehammer. Each left a voicemail, each more frantic than the last. "Where are you staying, Kayla? Call me back right now. This isn't like you. You said you were going to yoga. That was 3 days ago." She didn't respond to any of them, but I heard the notifications. She hadn't changed her Apple ID, and the iPad still pinged every few minutes like a heart monitor ticking through her social collapse. I didn't open the messages. I didn't need to. The funny thing about lies is that they need oxygen, attention, maintenance, but when you cut the air supply, they suffocate all by themselves. From what I could piece together, Kayla was couch hopping between two of her so-called unjudgmental friends, women who always cheered when she trashed other people's husbands over wine and edamame. I imagined them nodding along as she spun her version of the fallout. I just needed space. It was getting toxic. I didn't feel seen. Of course, she didn't mention the trainer, or the basket, or the fact that she packed up and left our house like a stranger fleeing a crime scene. No, she made it sound noble, brave, like some Eat, Pray, Love reboot where she was the misunderstood soul on a quest for self-worth. A few friends posted cryptic Instagram stories with overfiltered sunset shots and captions like, "Growth isn't linear," and "letting go to find peace." I didn't even have to check who they were about. Meanwhile, the gym's website updated silently. No announcement, no statement, just a quiet removal of Nick Dawson from the Our Trainers page. His bio disappeared. The page reloaded with one fewer smiling face. It was like he'd never existed, like the universe agreed he wasn't worth remembering. That made me smile. I wasn't watching obsessively, just enough to know that the dominoes had started falling without my help. She wanted drama, but what she got was erasure. And me? I started making changes. I called the bank first, removed her access to the joint accounts, froze the credit card we'd shared since 2009. I didn't even flinch when the banker said, "Are you sure you want to remove her?" I said, "Absolutely." I canceled the automatic payment for her car insurance, removed her as my emergency contact, updated my will, struck her name from the healthcare directive, and assigned my brother instead. The estate planner raised an eyebrow when I didn't ask for a copy to be mailed. "No need," I said. "She won't be around to contest it." Every legal line that once held her name became blank. She didn't even know yet, but the woman she used to be in my life was already dead on paper. I changed passwords, deleted her thumbprint from the security system, even reset the garage code she never memorized anyway, all in one afternoon. It felt less like revenge, more like decluttering. Every time I crossed her name off something official, it was like vacuuming after a messy guest finally left. The dust wasn't sentimental, it was just in the way. And the best part? I didn't do any of it in anger. Anger would have meant I still cared. This wasn't rage, it was pruning, quiet, calculated, necessary. By the end of the week, the only thing Kayla legally had left with my name on it was a wedding band she no longer wore, and even that, I suspected, was buried in the bottom of her bag under protein bars and excuses. The neighbors noticed too. One of them, an older guy named Ron who lived 2 doors down, caught me out front clipping hedges. "Hey, Darren," he said, lowering his voice. "Everything all right over there?" I just nodded. "House is quiet." He smirked. "She finally run out of spin classes?" I didn't answer, just turned the trimmer back on. He got the message. The thing about people like Kayla is, they're loud in the beginning and silent in the end. When the spotlight disappears and there's no audience to clap for their victim monologue, they panic. But I wasn't giving her a scene. No dramatic texts, no guilt-tripping calls, nothing to latch onto. That was the most brutal part. I wasn't broken. I was busy. And she was out there trying to figure out which version of herself was still marketable to the people who remembered her before she traded a good man for a six-pack and a dopamine hit. She used to say, "You're too quiet sometimes, Darren. It makes people uncomfortable." Maybe she was right, because now, in the absence of noise, everyone was starting to wonder, what exactly did she do to make a man like that go completely silent? Kayla opened the door in sweatpants, mascara smudged from the night before. She hadn't slept. Her phone battery was at 6%, and the only thing in her fridge was half a bottle of Chardonnay and a rotting container of arugula. The apartment was furnished with loaner pieces, an air mattress that hissed when she moved, a coffee table someone's cousin left behind after college, and a lamp that flickered like it had stage fright. She bent to pick up the manila envelope sitting on the threshold. No markings, no return address, but she recognized the handwriting. Neat, block letters, efficient. Darren never signed birthday cards with flourishes. He didn't do exclamation points. He was always exact. She closed the door, locked it out of habit, and sat at the rickety dining table. For a moment, she just stared at the envelope. She wasn't ready for it, not mentally, not emotionally, but curiosity was stronger than pride now. She peeled it open. The first thing that fell out was a simple cover sheet. No greeting, no letter, just a typed heading, Asset Transition Documentation, Finalized. The word finalized was bolded. Beneath it, clipped neatly together, were itemized bank statements, color-coded, dated, account numbers partially redacted but clearly hers. Well, what used to be hers. The checking account she once used for gym dues? Closed. The joint savings account with the auto transfer set up every second Tuesday? Emptied and shut down. The investment account with the modest but steady growth portfolio? Liquidated. Funds dispersed into two separate trusts. She flipped the pages faster, her breathing shallow now. Credit card? Canceled. Car lease? Transferred. Health insurance? Revoked from his plan and rolled to her own policy, already in effect as of 2 days after she walked out the door. She reached the notarized section. Affidavits signed and sealed. 2 witnesses, 1 lawyer. Darren's signature crisp and centered. She saw her own name on the documents, but it looked foreign now, like someone else entirely had once been tethered to this man who apparently had been planning this for far longer than she realized. She turned to the final page. There was no flourish, no bitter jab, just a single sentence typed cleanly across the bottom. Division executed as of the date you left. She stared at it, reread it, then again. It didn't make sense. Not because the words were complicated, but because she hadn't expected them to exist at all. She thought, what? That he'd wait? That she could float in and out, live on couches, figure herself out, and then ease back into the life she once mocked? That Darren would just pause until she made up her mind? She reached for her phone, typed his number. She still knew it by heart. It rang once, then voicemail. His voice was the same, calm, clipped. You've reached Darren. Leave a message or don't. The tone beeped. She didn't speak, not at first. She thought if she waited long enough, the words would come. They didn't. She hung up, then threw the phone across the room. It bounced off a stack of old magazines and slid under the sofa. She didn't go after it. Instead, she leaned back in the folding chair, the envelope still open in front of her like a post-mortem. Because that's what it was. A death certificate for the life she thought she could put on hold. A quiet, surgical dismantling of everything she took for granted. There was no dramatic breakup, no screaming match, no divorce lawyer with veins bulging from his forehead. Just this. A paper trail so clean, so cold it made her stomach turn. She'd always called Darren boring, predictable, safe. But this wasn't the move of a predictable man. This was a man who waited until she was absolutely sure he'd do nothing, and then did everything, efficiently, quietly, without ever raising his voice, without even giving her the satisfaction of a confrontation. She'd wanted attention. Now she had it, but only from the institutions telling her she no longer had access to anything tied to his name. The worst part wasn't the loss. It wasn't the humiliation. It was the fact that he never even looked back. The first post went up that night. A black and white photo of a wilting flower, overlaid with the quote, "Sometimes the people you'd take a bullet for are the ones pulling the trigger." No caption, no tags, just silent, dramatic martyrdom. It didn't take long. By morning, Kayla had posted 3 more, one of an empty wine glass beside an unlit candle, one of a beach at sunset captioned, "Healing isn't linear," and the final one, a screenshot of a text that said, "I just wish I had mattered." She blurred the sender's name but left the time and date visible, like bait, hoping someone, anyone, would ask what happened, who hurt her, who abandoned her after all she gave. The comments trickled in. "DM me if you need to talk." "WTF happened? Are you okay?" "Men are trash." She replied to none of them, but she didn't have to. The performance was the reply. She wanted whispers, pity, maybe even guilt from people who hadn't called her in months. And she got a little of that, at first, but it faded faster than she expected. By the 3rd day, the likes dropped off. The comments went quiet. A few friends, real adults with real lives, just stopped reacting altogether. One of them even unfollowed her. A woman named Bree, who once called Kayla the glue of our group, quietly removed her from her friends list and posted a story that said, "Some people aren't victims, they're just loud." Kayla didn't screenshot that one. She did, however, text Darren. 4 words. "You really don't care?" He didn't respond. Not because he didn't see it, he did. The notification lit up at exactly 10:17 p.m. He was watching a documentary about northern pike migration, something he'd never have been able to do when she was around because, nature stuff is so boring. He read the message, locked his phone, and went back to the fish. Later that night, Kayla tried again, this time in public. A Facebook post, long, rambling, punctuated by the sort of forced poetic phrasing that only appears when someone is desperately trying to spin a narrative. I gave years of my life to someone who watched me drown and offered me silence. I was gaslit. I was discarded. I was erased. And now I get to find me again. Darren didn't see it directly, but others did. One by one, his phone lit up with quiet messages from people he hadn't heard from in months. Old neighbors, co-workers, even her cousin, of all people. Hey man, just wanted to say, you handled things with real grace. She never appreciated you. If you ever want to grab a beer, let me know. I always liked you better anyway. She's making a mess online. Don't let it get to you. We know who you are. He didn't answer any of them, not because he was aloof, because he didn't need to. Their words weren't for a man who needed comfort. They were for a man who already won. Meanwhile, the house changed, subtly but undeniably. The second bedroom, rented out to a traveling nurse named Teresa, polite, kept to herself, paid early, never asked personal questions. Kayla's old makeup drawer in the bathroom, empty now, replaced by a spare towel and a bar of peppermint soap. Her messy stack of unread fashion magazines on the coffee table, gone. In their place, a few new hardcovers, a bonsai tree, quiet things. The floor stayed cleaner, no perfume trails in the hallway, no wet towels left on chairs, no laundry half done and forgotten in the dryer for days. And the silence? It was peaceful, not hollow, not sad, just clean. Darren spent his evenings in the kitchen now, trying recipes, cooking without criticism. No one around to say, that's too many spices, or, do you really need to add butter again? Yes, Kayla, yes, I do. He started sleeping deeper, no tossing, no tension, just long stretches of uninterrupted rest, broken only by the occasional dream that didn't haunt him. And on the rare occasion her name crossed his mind, it was like passing a street you used to live on. Familiar, but no longer home. She tried one more post, a selfie this time, clearly taken after crying, captioned, "Some people lose diamonds chasing glitter." That one got 6 likes, then nothing, because no one engages with a storm that already passed. No one claps for the aftermath. And Kayla, once the hurricane of every room she entered, had finally met a wind that didn't bend. It simply let her go. By week 3, the alliance between Kayla and Nick's wife, Rachel, as I finally learned from a mutual acquaintance, was already starting to rot. At first, they'd posted matching Instagram stories, wine glasses, spa masks, vague empowerment anthems playing over filtered shots of pasta they clearly didn't cook. There was even one story, just 2 stemless glasses clinking with the caption, "To healing and new chapters." But healing isn't communal when both people are secretly watching each other's backs for knives. I could have told them that. Rachel, the woman who'd knocked on my door without rage, just a quiet storm in boots, had seemed calculated at first. I respected that. But Kayla was chaos in yoga pants. Always had been. It was only a matter of time before mutual betrayal gave way to mutual distrust. The cracks appeared fast. Rachel caught Kayla logging into an old shared Hulu account, the one still linked to her household. She asked Kayla to stop. Kayla rolled her eyes, called it petty. 2 days later, Rachel confronted her about it again, and Kayla responded the way she always had when backed into a corner. Deflect, deny, and play the victim. "You're being paranoid. It's not even a big deal. Jesus, no wonder your husband strayed." That one did it. Rachel packed up the guest bedroom she'd been renting and left without saying goodbye. She took her French press, her planner, and even the wall mirror she'd bought for the hallway. Kayla posted a story the next morning of her reflection in that same, now empty hallway. Caption, "Alone but not lonely." Translation, "Please ask me what happened." No one did. Days passed, and then she tried calling me again. It was around 7:15 p.m. I was marinating flank steak and listening to a podcast on bonsai pruning. My phone lit up. Kayla calling. I watched it buzz. Once, twice, decline. 30 seconds later, a voicemail. I didn't listen at first. Let it sit there. A little red dot, like a mosquito bite on an otherwise clean day. Eventually, curiosity won. I tapped play, then paused it again before it even started. I poured a glass of water, set my phone on the counter, took a breath. Then I hit play. Her voice was small, not sad, not angry, just careful. "Hey, I'm not calling to fight, okay? I just want to talk. No yelling, no accusations. I think we rushed things, and I think maybe we owe it to what we had to, well, to talk." The message ended abruptly, like she ran out of breath or nerve. I hit delete, didn't save it, didn't replay it, didn't wonder. Then I finished prepping the steak. That should have been the end of it, but people like Kayla don't accept silence as an answer. To her, no response was just an invitation to escalate. 2 days later, I got a certified letter. The envelope was thick, legal weight, with a sticker on the back that read, "Hand-delivered, signature required." I signed for it at the door, already knowing what it was. Inside, 5 pages, headed by her attorney's letterhead. Tone, faux professional, thinly veiled concern. Per Miss Hensley's request, we are reaching out to open a dialogue around the possibility of spousal reconciliation and asset review. The phrase spousal reconciliation was underlined twice in pen. I folded the letter, placed it back into the envelope, and drove straight to my attorney's office. Didn't even call ahead. I dropped it on her assistant's desk and said, "No rush, no reply, just file it under unsolicited fantasy." She smiled. "We'll take care of it." And that was it. I walked back to my car, drove home, turned on the porch light, watered the little herb garden Kayla used to joke was a waste of dirt. Then I sat down with a paperback I'd been trying to finish for years and read the last 3 chapters in one sitting. No distractions, no phone buzz, no email with passive-aggressive subject lines. Just me, in my chair, in a house that was no longer waiting for someone to come home. Kayla had tried to build a second act with someone who'd also been betrayed. But when the drama settled and the lights came up, neither of them wanted to stay in the same scene. They weren't friends. They were co-conspirators who thought the audience would cheer when they kissed the wreckage. Instead, they found themselves alone, again. Except I wasn't. Not really. I had peace. She had a lawyer. It was a Thursday evening, mid-April. The kind of cool, restless spring night where the wind can't decide whether it wants to carry pollen or rain. I'd just finished mopping the kitchen, a habit I'd picked up in the last few months. Something about the sound of the mop gliding across clean tile made my head quiet down. I was wiping down the counter when the doorbell rang. Not a knock, a ring. That was how I knew it was her. Everyone else in my life knocked. Neighbors, delivery guys, even Teresa, the nurse renting the guest room. But Kayla? She always used the bell, like she still believed every door she touched owed her some kind of ceremony. I didn't move for a moment, just let the sound hang. Then I walked to the door and opened it, only halfway. There she was, hair curled but not fresh, makeup on but slightly smudged near the corner of one eye. She wore the silver necklace I bought her for our 10th anniversary, the one she once said she never really loved because it didn't match any of her gym outfits. Now it hung around her neck like a stolen relic, something she hoped would stir a memory I'd locked away. She gave a soft smile, practiced, hesitant. "I miss you," she said. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I was wrong," just, "I miss you." I looked at her for a moment, noticing the small things, the way she clutched the sleeve of her jacket, the subtle twitch in her left cheek when she wasn't sure how to continue. Her eyes darted past me, scanning the hallway behind me like she expected someone else to appear. Maybe Rachel, maybe another woman, or worse, no one at all, confirming just how completely she'd been replaced. By peace. I said nothing. She shifted her weight. "No drama. I'm not here for that. I just..." She paused, collecting herself like a child about to give a book report. "I just wanted closure." Closure. The word hung in the air like the scent of a perfume I didn't recognize. I gave a dry laugh, not bitter, just hollow. Then I looked her in the eye and said, "You had attention." I let the pause settle. She blinked, waiting for more. "Now you have silence." And I shut the door. No slam, no theatrical finish, just a click. The final note in a song she never bothered to learn the lyrics to. I locked the deadbolt slowly, out of habit, not fear. Then turned back to the kitchen, where my mop bucket still waited, the water a little grayer now. I finished the floor. Behind the door, I heard nothing. No second knock, no sobbing, no begging, just footsteps, faint, retreating. Maybe she thought silence meant the door could open again someday, that I was just hurt, just stalling. But she'd misunderstood everything from the start. This wasn't about a wound. It was about a line, and she'd stepped over it. Not just with another man, but with her mouth, her lies, her casual disregard, the things you don't pack in a suitcase, but they always come with you when you leave. I poured myself a glass of water. No whiskey, no ceremony, just hydration and clarity. Then I took her old necklace, the twin of the one around her neck, its box still buried in the junk drawer. I dropped it into the trash without flinching. I didn't need reminders. I didn't need closure. I had floors that gleamed, and silence that finally meant something. The shift didn't happen all at once. Reputations don't implode like buildings, they rot like fruit. Slowly, quietly, until one day the people who used to sing your praises just stop mentioning your name altogether. For the first few weeks, most of the neighborhood still operated under Kayla's version of the story, whatever vague half-truth she'd floated between bar classes and group chats before she vanished. Some thought we were on a break, others assumed we were figuring things out, the polite euphemisms people use when they'd rather not get involved. But time does its own kind of work, and silence speaks in volumes. She didn't return to the house, not once, not to pick up the rest of her clothes, not to retrieve that ridiculous ceramic frog planter she used to be so weirdly attached to. Nothing. Eventually, the absence itself started asking questions. The first one to crack was Joan from across the street, the kind of woman who always smiled too tightly and watered her begonias like they owed her rent. One morning, as I was grabbing the paper from the driveway, she hesitated by her mailbox. "You doing okay, Darren?" she asked, eyes darting between me and the empty space where Kayla's car used to park. I gave a small nod. Better than expected. She pursed her lips like she wanted to say something more but couldn't quite give herself permission. Later that week, a different neighbor, Ron, mid-60s, ex-Navy, always smelled like sawdust and cigars, stopped me at the mailbox. He leaned in, lowered his voice like we were about to swap classified intel. "Didn't know you had that in you," he said. I looked up from the envelope in my hands. Junk mail mostly. One bill, one flyer for a gutter cleaning service we didn't need. I gave him a half smile. Neither did I. He grinned, clapped my shoulder once, and walked away without another word. That was how it started. The shift. No one gossiped openly. Not anymore. The ones who had clung to Kayla's version, the loud one, the weepy one, the "I'm the one who got abandoned" one, started doing small things instead. They stopped liking her posts. Then they stopped commenting. Then she stopped posting entirely. Instagram, silent. Facebook, inactive. Her last public update was a moody quote against a stock photo of rain. People change, and not always for the better. No likes, no comments, just digital dead air. Meanwhile, the ripples hit further out. Nick, the trainer, the attention provider, filed for divorce. Quietly, but officially. Someone from the gym leaked it in a side conversation, and within a week, his name was removed from the gym registry entirely. The new hire page listed a different guy in his place. Same haircut, fewer HR liabilities. Rachel, Nick's wife, meanwhile, posted photos from Maui. Just her and the kids. No captions. Just waves, smiles, a few close-ups of shaved ice and sunburned noses. I noticed one photo had her ring finger bare, subtle, but deliberate. The kind of message meant to be seen without needing to be read. I didn't click like, but I saw every image. She looked peaceful. Kayla, though? I heard she moved again. Something about an Airbnb over near the river that turned into a month-to-month situation. No real furniture, just rented silence. Her old friends stopped mentioning her altogether. Mutuals unfollowed her. One even reached out to me just to say, "For what it's worth, we had no idea." I didn't reply. There was no need to explain what I never advertised. The quiet justice was enough. There was something surgical about it. Not cruel, not gloating, just the clean, inevitable disassembly of a version of her that had always relied on applause. Without the spotlight, Kayla faded fast. And me? I started running again. Nothing dramatic, just 2 miles in the morning, before work. Teresa left a post-it one day that said, "You always beat the sunrise. Respect." I bought a new bed. King-sized, no memory foam divots carved by old arguments, new sheets, new pillows, everything neutral, clean, not because I was expecting company, because I liked having a space that didn't remember her weight beside me. I framed a photo of my dog, Max, in the hallway. He'd passed the year before all this started, but I'd never put up the picture because Kayla said it made the space look like a shrine. Now, it looked like memory. There are some things that belong on walls, and others that belong in the past. And for the first time in a long time, everyone finally understood the difference. It had been a year, almost to the day. Not that Darren kept track like an anniversary. There were no circles on calendars, no saved texts, no passive-aggressive date reminders buried in some hidden file. But he knew, his body knew, like muscle memory without pain. The leaves had turned again, golden, brittle. The air smelled like wood smoke and soil. The time of year she used to claim was hers, like she owned autumn. She didn't own anything now. The house no longer whispered her name in the corners. The ghost of her perfume had long since been scrubbed from the fabric of the couch. Even the dent in the hallway wall, left when she threw a hairdryer mid-argument and blamed humidity rage, was patched, sanded, painted over. No trace. This place was his now, fully. The bedroom was the last to go. It had taken him time, not because it hurt, but because it was so damn easy to ignore when everything else had been louder. But today, he'd stood in the doorway, rolled up his sleeves, and started painting. He chose a color she would have hated, deep slate gray with a matte finish, said it made the room feel like a hotel for grown-ups, which was exactly what he wanted: clean, minimal, temporary. The opposite of chaos wrapped in throw pillows and drama. The photo came down last. It had been tucked behind a jewelry box she never claimed. A framed shot from a vacation in Charleston, her head on his shoulder, both smiling, some stranger snapping it at a wine tasting she later said was boring. He stared at it for a second longer than he expected to. Then he took it out to the trash and didn't look back. By dusk, the room was dry. The floor was clean. The locks were changed, not out of paranoia, but because it was simply time. No one had knocked in months. He liked it that way. Darren poured himself one glass of whiskey, neat, no ice. He stood by the fireplace, watching the flames curl and whisper in the hearth. There was no TV on, no music, just the soft creak of the house settling around him, confident, unburdened. Max's urn still sat on the mantel, but next to it now was a new photo, a framed print of the two of them, Darren and Max, taken on their last hike together. The dog's tongue out, Darren squinting into the sun. It wasn't sad. It wasn't posed. It was real. At his feet, the new dog, Rusty, a rescue mutt with no pedigree and zero manners, slept curled up on the rug, twitching through some dream about squirrels or sandwiches or God knows what. Darren reached down, scratched behind the mutt's ear, and smiled. No performance, no aftermath, no message waiting to be read into, just a man, a fire, a dog, and sleep, the kind you don't earn, the kind you reclaim.